think I might be racist. I know. How can you... how can a white guy make a video like this? And I know I'm an unusual kind of person, and I'm very aware of my thoughts, and I'm always inside my head. But I grew up in a very white place, very few minorities. Every once in a while, one or two would move into the community, a small fishing community on the east coast of Nova Scotia, Canada. A small fishing community in Nova Scotia on the east coast of Canada. Okay. I should probably, okay. So, the thing about that, though, is that I was a very introverted person. So I kind of kept to myself. I really didn't belong. So I did watch a lot of television. And the only thing I really knew about different cultures was what the television told me or what I learned in school. The television and what everyone said was that everyone is equal and everybody's the same. So that is what I grew up believing. I kind of thought everyone had the same values. Values are going to come in a lot in this conversation. When I got older, I moved to the biggest city in Nova Scotia. Still, there are minorities there, but even the minorities seem to be raised the same and have similar values. From what I saw, there was probably people probably stayed in their own areas and their own it didn't really come up because of me being a white guy. There was just very few incidences where I would be exposed to anyone who was different. Okay, so I went to college, I worked there, I decided to move to a bigger city, so I moved to Montreal. Now in Montreal, that was the first time I was able to see different cultures. And there I was able to feel racism upon myself. I'll explain that in a minute. But it was also a time where I learned that not everyone was the same and that cultures were completely different and different cultures had completely different values and different things were important to different groups of people. Now, because it was because Montreal is in Quebec and it is supposed to be a place where the French were given this area where they could be French. So there's a lot of anger sometimes towards people who are English. So I did get a lot of that. I worked in retail when I lived there, and when certain French people found out that I didn't speak French, which I took 12 years of in school, and for some reason there's definitely something wrong with our education system, because I certainly did not learn how to speak French. People got so angry and they hated me because I didn't speak French. And I saw it time and time again. They have referendums and stuff, and it is an ongoing thing. I haven't heard anything about it recently, but I don't really follow news or politics. I try to avoid that kind of stuff. Now, I live in probably one of the most multicultural cities in the world, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I actually live in a suburb, so I'm actually exposed to even greater numbers of minorities. This is where my racism seeps in. Like I said, I grew up believing that all people were equal. And then I learned that not all people. Then I learned that people may be equal, but they have different values. That they have different values. Now, I feel this the same way about men and women. I believe that men and women are very different from one another, but I believe they complement each other. So I think that too can be said about different groups of people, that the world should complement each other with different strengths, different powers, and they should just fit together. But I mean, there's not just two different groups of people that were meant to stick together. Were we in fact meant to have conflict? I don't know. Now, okay, because I live in these areas where, and okay, because I go places a lot and I try to go to different parts of the city and different suburbs of the city of Toronto, because I go on toy hunts and stuff, I often find myself in areas where people are of one group. So different religions or different settlements of different countries that have come to Canada. I mean, I have anxiety anyway being out in public with people, but when I see different people acting differently, and I can see they wear different clothes, and they act differently towards one another, and they act differently towards other people, and maybe they don't understand. If I have to ask a question and they don't understand me, I get really hostile. I don't act hostile, but I get angry and I get really frustrated. And yeah, I like nobody speaking English, and that makes me mad because I grew up learning certain values from certain religions, certain rules, and there are certain laws. And the same importance isn't put on the same value systems. And that makes me angry when people aren't following the rules. I have to follow the rules. Why aren't these people following the rules? Is that racism? I know that this land was stolen from the original people who lived here. But I guess I feel that when it's for a certain period of time that things have been run a certain way, then that's the way that it should be run. And when there is conflict and there is war, and when one kind of people take over another type of people, then they were the stronger people. They won, so they're deserving of it. Now, this kind of thing doesn't happen as much anymore here. Happens in other places all around the world. But listen to me. Am I not speaking like a racist? I noticed that in Europe, that the borders are so strong, and it's really strange because Europe isn't very big. I use Europe as an example because I have visited there the most. So I know that the borders are very strict, and well, they try to be, but there's also places like Barcelona where it's confusing what culture they are, and they're kind of a culture of themselves. They're all gray shades in between, and I see soccer as an excuse for different countries to fight one another, and all in different sports, the Olympics, where countries can compete. It's kind of barbaric. So okay, so there, I was throwing in random thoughts, but the point is that I get angry and frustrated at different people in different cultures when I see that they've come to this country and they still conduct the religion and they still conduct the way of life. But the reason it's free in this country is because the religion and the value systems have been watered down a bit, whitewashed. So everything's more lenient, everything isn't as strict. And that's why, and everything's more open minded, and that is why the country is free. So people want to leave their countries because of horrible, horrible things happening in them, which is completely understandable. Which is why Canada is one of the greatest countries in the world to live, because the people in power have often said come here, be safe, you can live here. This is one of the biggest countries. This is the largest country in the world. We have all kinds of land. When the strict religions and values are brought here, then that doesn't really make sense. You're having it both ways. Now, this is a new time. This is a new, maybe that's what's happening now. We're not having war anymore. We're having countries and people and cultures come together, even though they stick to their own groups and have their own communities. So it's better than war. So I don't know. Am I a racist because I'm aware and I get frustrated and I don't when I'm visiting another country, I don't ever feel that way. I don't ever feel entitled to understanding people. I expect that I'm not going to understand what anybody's saying. I have to do whatever I can to make myself, it's my responsibility to be able to communicate. But when I'm here, for some reason, I feel that I deserve to understand what's going on. That is the question. Does that make me racist? Because of my entitlement to understand what is going on around me. Because my ancestors were here longer and won the wars and won the horrible wars to have that elitist position. Wow. I don't know how this, I don't know how this is going to play out. I don't know what I'm going to be thought of. I don't know if this would make people angry. Here's something that I believe that I will leave you with. In the long run, I don't think being a white male is a beneficial thing. Because in life, anything that is worth anything, anything that means anything, came from adversity. And when somebody goes through life and isn't different, and things just come easy to them, and you've never had to overcome anything, or you haven't had to overcome as much as someone else, there's not as much to learn in that life. There's not as much value. I don't think there's as much value. Luckily, I'm really strange, so I've had to overcome a lot of things. White males aren't really allowed to talk about being different because they could never understand what it's like to be a minority. I should probably get better lighting when I'm going to do this. But all of this put aside, when I'm not getting stressed out or frustrated because I'm surrounded by all kinds of people who I don't understand, one-on-one, I still love you. So I guess that's a good thing.